Okay, so thank you guys so much for being here. It's 3 p.m. EST for me. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and my name is Megan Schaeffer. I'm the creative director here at ArtCloud, and we're just really pleased to be putting on these webinars for with professional development for artists in mind. And this is a really unique program that we have today, talking about best practices with applications for a variety of opportunities. I'm so excited to have Sarah Lawrence here with us today. She is a multidisciplinary designer, an illustrator, creative director, sort of all of the things. She's multi-hyphenate in a lot of ways, and she's wonderful. And I'm so happy to have snagged her today to co-host this webinar with me. But ArtCloud, a little bit about the presenter today. ArtCloud is an artist software where you can organize all of your inventory. You can sell your work through our Stripe integration. You can build a website. You can send email newsletters. ArtCloud in general it's a kind of a beast to explain because we're like a full-fledged sales and marketing system for artists and for galleries. We serve hundreds of galleries in the world, hundreds of artists in the world, and are just growing. And we're really happy to have you along with us. While I'm thinking of it, our next webinar will be an artist demo of ArtCloud. So if you have been curious about the features that we present, the features we provide for artists, come join me next month, and I will take you through comprehensively what our platform does for artists. So look out for that invitation from us. And then also know that the Q&A is open the entire time. I will be monitoring it while Sarah speaks, and we'll cover the questions more towards the end if we can't answer them by typing them out. So yeah, thank you again for joining. Sarah, I'm going to hand the mic over to you. And also you'll receive a recording in a few days as well of this event. So you can watch it as many times as you want. Sarah.
Yeah, and I know that we all love to rewatch webinars over and over and over. So I hope this is a good, concise one that's like fun to remember and fun to watch. And thank you, Megan. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. This is a topic that I've been sort of noodling on for a long period of time and taking notes and thinking about it and talking to people. And it's exciting to kind of have this like wrapped up into one cohesive thing. So here we are with from application to award, and these are going to be grants, residencies, and public art strategies for artists. Today in this webinar, we're going to give a little bit of intro. We're going to talk a little bit about finding opportunities, best practices for work samples, writing, submissions, and then at the end, if we have time, we'll do some Q&A. But before I do that, you might be wondering, like, who am I? I mean, they gave me this amazing intro, but like, what do I have to be doing with the application process of things? And so just a little bit of my kind of history and backstory. In 2013, which feels like 100 years ago, I was a student in college and I really wanted to work on this interactive public art project for my senior thesis. But what I wanted to do was a little bit out of my college student budget at the time. And so I basically went through the process of applying for and receiving this grant from an organization called the Awesome Foundation. They're like open web chapter. They have chapters for different cities, chapters for different categories. It's a really cool organization. And it was at the time it was $1,000 grant, no strings attached, just $1,000 to do whatever my project was going to be. I didn't need to submit receipts. It was a really cool program. And because of this, I was able to complete this project and gather, I think, like 200 different memories that take place around the city of Atlanta. And this was a really cool senior thesis project. And then I also got to give a TEDx talk to a large audience in 2014. So here is me in 2014 trying not to panic in front of a room of literally, I think it was like 389 people. I remember that number because that's a lot of people. So I got to do this really cool project. I got to give a TEDx talk, and then I got to really kickstart a lot of this interactive public art that I still do today. So this was really important to me. Fast forward a little bit, I was finally maybe like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, was sort of in the position to be able to pay it forward. And so I wanted to see about um, like taking over leadership of the Atlanta chapter for the Awesome Foundation, because it had been defunct for a period of time, and it was just like sort of confusing. But ultimately, I just wasn't able to do it. They just like I don't know why. Lots of reasons we could go into later, but I wasn't able to do it. And so I was like, well, I really want to pay it forward. This is really important to me. So I ended up starting my very own grant. And so for the past like 4 or 5 years, I have given $1,000 away to an artist, to a small group of artists, doing something that's interactive, something that's community driven, something that incorporates art and technology. I really try to keep it open ended because I want to encourage people to apply. This is for people who maybe have traditionally been excluded from grant processes and residencies. Like, I really want to try to find you and I really want to give you money. So, doing this for a couple of years has been really interesting. And through this process, through doing this for like 4 or 5 years, doing an open call, I think we get about 30 applications each cycle. So I've seen, doing math on the fly, doing over 100 different applications for this grant, for different projects from different groups of people. And so some of these things are going to be things that I see over and over that I just want you to know about, that, grant reviewers, residency reviewers, people who are reviewing your applications, juries and the like, things that we see, things that we want you to know about, but then also just kind of a holistic view of what that's going to be. So first, you might be like, okay, but I'm going to do this webinar, and then I'm going to leave here, and then I'm going to get a bajillion dollars in funding. I'm going to get all the residencies. This is not a guarantee. This is just a best practices list. I really want to make sure, if it's between you and somebody else, I want to make sure like you are still as competitive as you can possibly be in this process. So, we can't guarantee anything, but we just want to be here to help. And also, there's something sort of interesting that happens in this process. Even if you're like, maybe right now, I don't need anything, I don't want anything, you may want to join a program down the road. This is one that's actually, I think, ongoing or recently closed in Atlanta, and they give special consideration to artists and organizations that have gotten funding before. So having that track record, even if it feels small, people pay attention to that and people notice that, and that can affect your ability to get stuff in the future. So when you're looking for opportunities, and this is, I don't know, this is sort of advice I haven't really seen people give very often, but something that I've sort of started to notice is I really think like the best places to look are small organizations, in like smaller sort of digital footprints. I'll see someone will send me a grant opportunity or a residency or some sort of artist program or something, and it's from like Sprite, and it's like a global thing, and there's going to be one person, and so that they're going to get 200,000 applications, and like it just doesn't matter how competitive you are if it just gets lost in the shuffle. So I really want to encourage you to do some extra legwork and find organizations that are maybe starting new programs, maybe smaller organizations, things where you can kind of get your foot in the door a little bit more easily. On the right, I have 4 different links for places that can be good places to find like funding and grants and all these different things, artist opportunities. But also at the bottom, there's a link to a extremely large spreadsheet maintained by an artist named Everest Pipkin. And they maintain this spreadsheet from submissions from around the world. And so it's like pretty well curated, but you'll find a much more diverse range of things in this spreadsheet than something that's like curated and big. So go small, that's okay. That might require digging, but if it's harder to find, that maybe means your chances are better. A good example of this is the Adobe Creative Residency Program. This is one of those global programs. They promote this, very, very wide. They pick 4 people, or I don't know, pick 4 people. I think when I found out about this, they had just picked 2 people a year. And I applied for this residency program, which is basically an entire year salary paid. I think they I think they like fly you out to San Francisco. They pay for all of your lodging just to work on your project or your work. It's an incredibly cool program. And I just happened to come across it in the very first year. And so I applied. And then, even though like I don't think my application was very, very good or my work was very good, I got an interview and I ended up going out to California to interview with Adobe for this program. Um, I ultimately didn't get it because I think, I don't know, a lot of different reasons. I'm not a very good interviewer, but this was a big organization with a brand new program. And so I think that was a really cool thing. Let me pause for a little sip. So when you are trying to decide what opportunities you actually want to go for, maybe you're like, okay, I see this huge spreadsheet. I see this huge website of calls for artists. I don't, you can't apply to all of them. You don't want to just like send out 400 and see who responds. You really want to be a little bit more choosy. So things that you can kind of look at would be past award history. Who have they traditionally given this award to? Do they have like a type of person, type of organization that they tend to favor? And then are they consistent? I mean, I go back to the Awesome Foundation. you know, Different chapters have different levels of consistency. The idea with Awesome Foundation is it's once a month, every single month, forever, I guess, indefinitely. But if you see a chapter that maybe awarded a grant in January and then in May and then June, July, and then December, you may apply and not hear from them for months because they're maybe inactive, doing other things. So take a look at how consistently they have been granting different opportunities because that'll tell you a lot about your likelihood to get it. And then same with frequency. Awesome Foundation is once a month. If you are in a small city or a small chapter, you have a much better likelihood of making that work if they're giving out one a month versus one every 5 years or once a year to one person. So frequency is really important here too. And then there's just that sort of all-encompassing vibe. Like, does this organization have the just general vibe that you're looking for? Does it feel like a culture fit? Does it feel like a values fit? Does it seem like something where you would be proud to work with them if you were chosen? So when you're deciding to apply, you can ask yourself a couple different questions. You could ask yourself, what do I need right now for my practice? Um, Somebody sent me a residency open call recently that was like, I think it was like painting in Spain or something. It was like a fine art residency program in like rural Spain where they would put you would live in like a cottage for 6 months and paint. And I'm like, well, I do want to go to Spain desperately. But
Who
I'm not
doesn't?
really a paint. I know. I'm like, what do I got to do to have someone pay me to go to Spain? But I'm not a painter, so I wouldn't have to really do a lot of fake it till you make it to get them to send me to Spain. So what do I need for my practice right now? Is it networking support? Is it financial support? Is it, that time? Is it just time that I need to create my body of work? Um, does this opportunity align with my goals? Maybe my goal is to suddenly become a painter in rural Spain. I don't know. Um, Maybe it is. Maybe I can apply to it. Maybe I should. Maybe I will. And then you can ask yourself, am I prepared for the application process? Sometimes a lot of different organizations will let you see up front, what the questions are going to be, what the asks are going to be, whether you're going to need like letters of recommendation or different all kinds of things. So, am I prepared for this process in the amount of time that I have? I think the painting one in Spain is due like tomorrow, and so I'm like, I don't know, maybe not.
Okay.
Um, and so then when you are, and so here I have like a couple throughout. I've have a couple different pieces of advice because I also talk to different, colleagues and friends of mine who also review applications for like large art projects and residencies and stuff like that. And so, also when you're thinking about it, think about your parts that are for the application process and who you're going to actually be talking to. Are you sending this application to artists? When we talk about vibe, who is managing the logistics of this? Are you sending this to artists? Is this people who work in corporate? They're going to have different goals. And the Adobe program, I'm sure, wants people at this point with large networks so that they can continue doing some like brand work for Adobe. And then that may not be what you want to do. So you need to think about who is going to be receiving this application and what are they going to be doing with it. And then if, kind of depending, I think you can make an argument for either group, but you really want to make visuals and mock-ups. People don't know what's in your head. You have to make sure that they understand what you want to do and how you want to do it. Um, this is a t-shirt I designed for my friend's choir, I think last year or 2 years ago. And I did this sort of like slanty design because I really wanted to show how cool it would be when they were all wearing this shirt together, kind of in a line doing their singing and kind of showing that sort of rhythm. And so this was the pitch. It's just like a quickie little mock-up, but this is sort of the pitch I made when I was working on it. And then you really want to think about how else are these work samples going to go? I mean, you might think like it's because it's so easy now, especially with design, to just go and like get a t-shirt mock-up or just like get a book cover mock-up or something. But that is so easy to do. And you really want to think about, what does this work feel like when someone is looking at it? What is the final effect you want? How is it going to play in a space? And maybe how is it going to engage other people? Like it doesn't need to be staged and it doesn't need to be, something that's super precise and photographed in a space. Because maybe you're like, I don't have time to or resources to photograph my work in a particular way. This and in the next slide I have, these are graphics from people who have received the grant that I do. They're past grant recipients. And this was just photos of the zine process that they do because their major thing was it's like a zine pen pal program. And so because community was such an important part of their work, the mail aspect, the co-creation aspect, these are the pictures that they shared that caught my attention because that's what I'm looking for. If it had just been like a mock-up of like, a zine or something, that wouldn't have really captured what they're doing as well as these pictures do. And similarly to this one, this is a paper mache artist in Atlanta. And, you could maybe take a picture of his work on like a white seamless background with beautiful lighting. But, he makes this work with his community and for his community. And I loved that there was a picture of him holding it. I felt like I was kind of just getting to know him from the get-go. And then also, when you're thinking about your work samples, when you're thinking about your proposals, what are you going to do when you're kind of creating this piece that you're going to share with other people? One of the artists I talked to said, I send a link, not a PDF, whenever I humanly can. Because maybe you sent a PDF and there was like a broken link in the document, or your prices have changed, or some kind of thing that you can't call back. She said she always sends a link because she can update that same link over time. And so it's the same, people have access to like the same information, but she can sort of change those details on her side, and it keeps that information really like clean and close together. And then, I just want to like talk a little bit about kind of art speak, and the way that we talk about our work and the way that we talk about our work for other artists. Too much art speak can make your message confusing. Some of the applications that I've read have been like, the artist statement and the statement of work or description of work is like 4 paragraphs. And then by the time I've gotten to the bottom of it, I'm like, okay, but what are we doing here? Yeah, like, they write for a more general audience, write for a friend, write for your parents. I feel like for me, I feel like I have done a good job when my mom understands it, like websites and everything. That's super important to me. So being able to speak authentically and clearly about what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And then we have a quick history bonus lesson. History
I'm excited.
lesson bonus. I know I was trying to tell Megan about this while we were working on this webinar, but I want to quickly tell you a little bit about the Heilmeyer Catechism, which is something that a client mentioned to me like 2 years ago, and I keep thinking about it. In a sense, a catechism is a structured set of fundamental questions. In case you're like, I have never heard that word before in my life, and I'm wondering what it is. The Heilmeyer Catechism was a set of questions originally meant for researchers in the 1970s who worked for DARPA, which is not Dharma Initiative like Lost, which is what I thought. But it's
Defined our
basically like define DARPA. That's a good question. If somebody knows what that means off the top of their head without Googling it, um, we will
I'm
give
good.
you a we will give you a gold star in the chat. But basically, these are seven or eight questions that Heilmeyer developed in the 1970s for researchers, kind of for grant writing for like defense contracts, more like academic research. But when I read this list of questions, I just felt like it was extremely relevant today. You really want to consider your proposal from these eight sort of points of kind of scrutiny. So the first one is, what are you trying to do? Articulate your objectives using absolutely no jargon. I sort of love that because I feel like a lot of 1970s research projects and probably modern ones have a lot of jargon in them, a lot of acronyms and things that nobody understands. How is it done today? And then what are the limits of current practice? So if you are doing something that's experimental or unusual or unique, you want to make sure that you talk about it in context of what other work is happening. What is new in your approach and why do you think it will be successful? This sort of follows up from the second question, what is the bigger context of what's happening? And then why is your thing unique or experimental or different? And also, why will it work? I love the next question, which is who cares? If you're successful, what difference will it make? Who are you speaking to with this work? What are you trying to, like, what point are you trying to get them to? What are you trying to show people? And what are you trying to do? What are the risks of this? How much will it cost? Developing an artist budget is probably a whole other webinar that we could go through. How long will it take? A lot of residency programs have a set period of time. If you want to pitch something and you're like applying for a 3-month residency program and your project is going to take 7 months, you need to think about that. So how long will this project take? And then, what are the midterm and final exams, so to speak, to check for success? How do we know by the midway point, by a month and a half in, that we are on the right track and that we are creating the work that we intended to start out with? So these are you can start talking about the Heilmeyer Catechism and have all your friends be like, wow, you're so cool. Okay, so when you are collecting all of your different documents for your application, for your proposal, for whatever you're applying to, there's like 6 or so things that you're really going to always need to have on hand. You want to have a folder on your computer or in something that maybe we can talk about in a second that has these major things that you're going to need. You're going to need probably additional things in the future depending on what you're applying to or applying for, but you're probably going to need a good headshot, like a good headshot, not like a screenshot. Somebody recently sent me a printed out, hold up, it was a screenshot that they took of a video, and the video was of a printed piece of paper. So like a good headshot, good quality. An updated resume in a PDF form or a link form, if we're thinking about it. A long bio, like a longer, who are you? What are you trying to do? What is your, all your different Heilmeyer answers. But then a short quippy bio, maybe like, I'm Sarah, so-and-so, keep it short. And then good photos or mock-ups if you want of past work, and then a good cover letter template for yourself. And then I believe
Yes, I have things to add because ArtCloud can help with this. So what you see in this little GIF that I made is the ability to export price lists, tear sheets, wall labels, etc., of all of your inventory. And this is relevant to this webinar because the way that ArtCloud works is that you put all of your inventory and every single detail you've ever known about your own work into ArtCloud and use it as a database. And then you can pull specific pieces and put them on consignment. You can pull specific pieces and create what you can see with me clicking around in this GIF, a price list where you can either take off the price or you can leave the price, and then you can easily export it to PDF or email it from ArtCloud to someone in like a really professional format. So and you can, with ArtCloud, because it's made for the art world, put in your bio, put in your headshot and your profile, all of the inventory items that you put in ArtCloud of your work. You're encouraged to add multiple images, installation shots. All of this also can translate to your ArtCloud website. But essentially, this is the how kind of ArtCloud can come into play and be helpful in organizing yourself to get you to the point where you're submitting, and using this checklist to do so.
Yeah. And I love that, I don't know, like, not to, I guess, not to toot the horn too much, but like, I love that there is one place to keep it all. Like, every time I look for a bio for myself, I have to, I don't know, I have to like go back through emails and be like, what did I most recently send a bio? And how can I find it in my email? And it's just like, it's a mess. I gotta put it all in one place. So,
I All of mine's in my website. I go to my own website in order to find anything, which I'm like, do I even know about myself anymore? Like I can just
yeah,
copy and paste it, um,
yeah,
but yeah,
exactly.
it feels like a mess, but we can make it less messy.
So do as we say, not as we do.
Mhm.
Um, because you know what, I'm making it work. That's fine. And then once you have all of these documents, this seems like one of those, like just a couple quick tips that seem to me that you would just do this naturally, but from reading 100+ applications for my grant and also for a couple different residencies that I'm like a juror for, um, please name your files appropriately. You would not believe how many times I am looking through, because for my grant it's like you upload all your documents to a Dropbox, so they just go into one folder. And you would not believe how many times I'm like trying to look through people's information to connect their bio with their resume, with their work, and all of the files are named stuff like this. You know, let's do more specific things so that I can find your name, I can figure out, I can connect your documents together, um, and then we can have an easier time. Make it easy on the person who is reviewing your application.
It does make a difference.
Um, don't send documents that the organization didn't ask for. Um, 2 years ago, actually, no, this happens about once a year. For the grant, we don't really ask for much. I just say like, what do you? I'm kind of just going through those. I need to stop being like a Heilmeier catechism girly, but like, I'm kind of just going through like the who are you, what's your deal, what are you trying to do, what do you need, etc. But about once a year, about every time we do this, somebody sends like their articles of incorporation, their LLC documentation. I think somebody sent me a recent W-2. Like I don't want that information. I don't need to have your social security number. It will not affect your application. Um, and then I have to quickly delete it because I'm like, I don't, this is just on my computer now. Only send us what we have asked for. Consider the printer. I know that we're talking about links and we're talking about PDFs. Sometimes, especially if there's like a jury that meets together, they may want to print out your application just so that it's easy to mark on and it's easy to take notes on. There is at the end of the day like it a battle, like a trade off to make, because they want to print out pictures of your art. So like it doesn't need to be like one word on a page and then you print it, but just consider what it's going to be like when it's printed with ink on paper. For cover letters and statements, um, I am not personally against using ChatGPT, um, but I would say don't start with it and don't end with it. Um, keep your language simple and straightforward, and don't don't send documents that they didn't ask for, and don't write more than they asked for. Juries often, like I'm saying, like I and a small group of people for my own tiny grant review about 30 applications each cycle. For the other jury that I judge on, I think they get 200, 300 applications. They have to read a lot of stuff. So keeping it concise and clear is really doing them a favor, and just saying like very clearly, here's what I want to do. I want to create an XYZ that does ABC, and this is going to be the expected impact. Or I want to create a specific body of work in that does XYZ, just like keep it simple. Talk about it like you're telling a friend or telling my mom, either one. So, kind of to do a recap, we have a couple different steps to consider. First, you can start today by gathering your materials into a place that is easily findable, whether that is a digital platform such as ArtCloud or in your Dropbox or in an email draft. Just keep it all together so you don't have to go hunting for it. When you have decided what you're going to apply for, draft your application, draft everything in a separate document. I also have seen this happen a lot where somebody is like filling out their application in the form on the website in real time, and then like I just something stupid happens, like you close the tab on accident and you have just lost everything that you have written. So draft everything in a separate document so that you have, you remember what you said and you don't lose it. So if you like applied for something and you ended up winning it, or you won the residency, you won the grant, or I need like a good placeholder. You won the opportunity. You like, I want to remember what I said so that I can use that language again in the future. So keep track of what you said, who you said it to. Make edits, compile, have a trusted friend review your application. Have someone that you can trust to be like, cut all this. None of this makes sense. I don't understand what you're trying to say here. Like, have someone that you can trust to really review it and take a look at it. And then submit and prosper. That's what we want for you. So this is great because we have a lot of time for questions, which I'm super excited. For more information, I want you to get all the money that you should get. And that's why I give away a grant. That's why I volunteer with different juries to review grant funding. I also do a monthly newsletter for my studio that includes about 5 to 10 artist opportunities every month. I try to find things that meet some of those criteria, that are like not super huge, feel attainable, feel reasonable. The asks are pretty clear, and they are just it's just like feels like a real opportunity. So I keep track of these. I share them in my newsletter. If you want to sign up for them, you're more than welcome to. That is totally optional, but it is for you because I think it's awesome.
I'm
Um,
heavily biased, but every time I see a Sarah Lawrence newsletter come into my inbox, I'm like, yes, today's the day. Very
um,
entertaining and informative.
Yay, thank you. Yeah, I also, not to continue plugging it, but I also have like cool animal facts,
Yeah.
cool links. So, I just want to share all the cool info. Um, cool. Let me go back. Oh, DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency.
Mhm.
Cool. Thank you. Now I can remember what that means. Okay, let me take a look at some questions. Do you include US opportunities only or internationals as well? That is a great question. It tends to, it kind of depends month by month because I'm more looking for those criteria pieces. But there are some things that are international as well, for sure.
And I think, Sarah, there's some links further up in the presentation that we'll be sure to include in the follow-up email. But like NIFA, New York, Federation for the Arts, Foundation for the Arts is an awesome resource. Callforentry.org has always been a great resource. So we'll be sure to send out a follow-up email with lots of information, including this link to sign up for Sarah's newsletter as well. So I stay for the animal gifts, etc. for Sarah's newsletter. It's delightful. Re-show this slide with possible resources. That's a great idea, actually, Sarah. If you wouldn't mind going back, that way y'all can do some screenshotting.
Screenshotting this one.
Yep. Yeah, Creative Capital, resartist.org, nifa.org/opportunities, call for entry. And that bit.ly link is going to be, I think, if you didn't learn anything today, that itself will be a really great resource because it's not widely known and it's privately, developed. So yeah. And then I think, yet to be accepted.
Yeah. Okay. Katie's question. I've been trying to break into public art for over 7 years, and I've yet to be accepted for anything I've applied for. Um, I would like anyone to do a little ghost emoji in the chat if you're like, I relate to that. Um, I always ask for feedback, and the number one response I get is that I don't have a public art experience. I feel like it's a catch-22, and I can't get the experience because I'm never accepted, and can't get accepted because I don't have the experience. I do see a ghost emoji from Aaron. Yeah, it's a great question. Um, a lot of that can just be a lot. Yeah, Katie, everybody relates with you. I mean, a lot of that can just be starting really small. Maybe when you are, oh, this is such a good question. Okay, when I'm reviewing applications for different things, like one of the things I try to look for the most is consistency. So maybe you haven't done like 7 giant murals in the past, which are logistically really complicated and require
And
just a lot of different insurance and stuff.
mm,
Um, but maybe you have done smaller pieces. I know in Atlanta, Marta, our transit agency, will do a lot of different levels of calls for artists, and like I remember one recently where they had, it was like a call for artists to come paint these like weird like bollard things in front of the station that are kind of a cool shape. They're kind of like a plus sign, but if it was like 3 dimensional. And they were almost like a micro grant project for like public artists on a small scale. Um, and so maybe just starting with things that are small but consistent can help. There's also in Atlanta, I've seen different small uh, calls for entry to paint those like metal electrical boxes that are sometimes kind of near the curb on like street corners. Um, all of a sudden, I don't know what those are called, but those are relatively like bite-sized projects that I think would be easier to get accepted to start building up some of that portfolio. So then you could start to grow and do bigger and bigger calls and stuff like that.
Also, I mean, it depends if this is within your practice or not, but thinking about your community and how to involve your community in your work and your practice. Obviously, it's not relevant depending on what you do, but even doing something small, even with like a group of friends or perhaps your HOA or your community. I don't know if the HOA thing's such a great idea, but I'm thinking about like people that you know that perhaps you can have them get involved, and then those photographs that you take at the mini event, even if it's just with a few people, that's public art. Public art, I think, is you can make a very wide definition for what that means. And often what that means is arts education having being integrated into that. Um, so that if I were on a jury and I saw that, that's public art. That's an example of you being able to engage with your broader community and bring your work to a public space, even if what you really want is that mural, what you really want is that corporate commission or whatever it might be. That might be a way to sort of generate some content, but generate some examples of you being able to take on that type of project.
Yeah, and also to add on to that, like sometimes where, especially for like public art, things that are in the public right of way, things that involve other people,
Mhm.
sometimes that's just like logistical knowledge. Like I know there can be zoning concerns with murals that you paint, the different approval processes they have to go through. And so um, a lot of what they're going to be looking for, I would guess that they're looking for previous experience because they want someone who knows all of those things. They're going to be aware of some of those pitfalls. So doing these community projects and doing some of these smaller projects will also give you that insight into what that's going to be, and then you can speak more to it for these larger applications. Be like, I know XYZ because I've done this thing, and you can show more samples. They don't need to be big. Like um, they can be a lot more like small and consistent. Should find samples of this too. The Marta one was really cool.
The Marta one is really cool. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're Atlanta girls, so we can speak to a lot of the arts things that happen here in this city, but it'll be the same, especially if you're in a big city. If you're in a small city, obviously it's a little bit, you're welcome, Katie. a little bit different, but sometimes better because some of these regional, like I'm on, or I was on an advisory board for a very, very small micro grant. And we considered every single application because we could, because like Sarah said, we got like 200 applications and spent hours and hours going through them. So I can back up everything that was Sarah was saying. We can't spend too much time, but we spend enough time to really get, oh, thank you, Nika, for Canadians. uh, Sarah, we have in the Q&A, Aaron asking, can you tell us what the painting residency in Spain is?
Yes, Aaron, I will look that one up and I will send it to Megan to share. Um, because if I can't go to Spain, you should.
I mean, Aaron, go to Spain. Sounds like fun, especially this time of year. But
Mhm.
we will wrap it up. Again, thank you guys so much for being here or listening to this recording when it becomes a recording. If you have any other questions about ArtCloud, about me, or about Sarah, feel free to email hello@artcloud.com. Make sure to follow us on social media. We love to watch the journeys of galleries and artists all over the world. And we just really appreciate everything. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you. And, here's sparkling some good luck dust on all of your applications in the future. We can do this together. And it's so nice to rely on our broader arts community to learn together and do things like this. So have a good weekend, everyone. And look out for an email from me. Okay. Bye. See you later.